Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking About Rock. I'm your host, Rob Edwards. My co-host, Jerry Schmidt in Nashville, has a special guest for us today. Jerry.
We have Alyson Blake Dellinger from Flummox joining us today. Alyson, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. Getting ready for everything that we've got going on and just keeping busy. How are y'all doing?
Oh, pretty good. This is like our 15th episode here of Talking About Rock, and it's really starting to roll. Robert is from Buffalo, New York, of course, like he said, and I'm covering the Nashville, Tennessee scene. And both Robert and I really enjoyed the rainbow covers that you did for the Dio birthday celebration back on June 10th. And we wanted to bring you on because we thought you're an awesome performer. And of course, we thought Flummox absolutely killed it at that performance.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun for us. That was like our first time being in front of a live audience like that since before the lockdown. We didn't really perform like as Flummox necessarily. I mean, we were, but like as far as like original music and everything goes, we haven't done that yet, but we wanted to kind of do something like that to kind of I guess like kind of wean us back into the whole live music thing after being away from it for so long. And like it was perfect. Ronnie James Dio is probably like the most influential vocalist in my life, so it was perfect. It was a wonderful night.
Well, of course, Robert and I always sing high praise of Ronnie James Dio as well. He's definitely one of our favorite rock vocalists of all time. So I definitely had to go see that performance. And certainly you were one of many standout performers at that show that night. So, well, the name of the band is Flummox, which means to bewilder, confuse, or perplex.
Yep.
How do you feel this describes the band and its music?
Oh, well, I mean, kind of perfectly. You know, and weirdly enough, like obviously, like we were kind of aware already that Flummox was just a word. You know, we started the band right out of high school, but the reason we actually named the band was my girlfriend at the time brought in all of these Dr. Seuss books to the practice space for us to find a band name. So we started flipping through all of these Dr. Seuss books, and I believe it was either If I Ran the Circus or If I Ran the Zoo has a creature called the Flummox, and we were like, that's perfect. But then of course we were like, but wait, like that's an actual word, you know? So like it very much describes what we do, because we never really stay in one box. Like, I mean, I don't know how much y'all have researched as far as like our original music or whatever, but we consider ourselves very genre fluid. We're a heavy rock band, but we also like lean into jazz fusion, and then sometimes we'll be death metal, and then sometimes we'll be bluegrass, and then sometimes I mean, like we're very highly influenced by obviously bands like Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Rainbow, of course, as you've seen, but also Frank Zappa and Mr. Bungle and groups like that. So we're always like trying to do something different. And there's a lot of modern music we're into as well, but we're trying to, I guess, perplex people and in their own experiences with our entire live experience and what we've got going on the records.
Well, we both certainly enjoy it, and I can certainly see all those influences that you mentioned in your music. I definitely saw the Frank Zappa influences on Opossum, and I was wondering how your love of opossums came about, and how you came about writing a song about North America's only marsupial.
So, honestly, it's been one of those hyper fixations for me since I was a young kid. When I was like a young, like probably like a toddler, I explicitly remember going to this Pizza Hut in like Alabama with my grandparents who have passed away and everything, and like there was a possum out in the parking lot, and I'd never seen a creature like that before. And I was so excited about it as a kid that my father has always called me Possum, like as a nickname, and that's been my nickname with that side of my family forever. So like, I don't know, it's always just been kind of this weird sort of in the background of my life sort of thing. And like, I don't know, like as I got older, like, they like possums are just kind of fascinating to me. And like I'm the crazy girl who will see like a freshly dead, or rather freshly hit opossum like on the side of the road, and I will pull over to check and see if like there are babies in the pouch, because a lot of times people don't realize like when a mama possum gets hit by a car, a lot of the babies are still alive in their pouch. And I've saved a couple that way, with like animal rehab people here. But like, yeah, on it, like the first conversation I even had with my guitar player Drew, we started Flummox together. He wasn't actually present at the Dio tribute, but when I first met him when we were 11, our first conversation ever was about opossums, and it's just always been this sort of thing. And a few years ago, we finally made our possum song, and it's kind of a staple in the set. Honestly, it's a way better song live than it is on the record, and it gets a lot crazier in the live setting. But and everybody, like, it just kind of ended after that song and after that record, people just kind of started associating possums with the band, and we started pressing opossum merch as a result. And that's kind of where it's been. Like, the opossum's kind of like our mascot now.
I did see your purple shirts with the opossum on them.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to checking those out on Saturday at the Pride Festival.
Yes, that's gonna be I mean,
you played it 2 years ago as the opening act, and now this time you're going to be the headliner. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's been like, even then, like as the opening act, that was like probably one of our biggest, if not our biggest show. I mean, like that we played, because I mean, I'm from Murfreesboro, like that's my hometown. So being able to headline, or rather at that time, just open Pride, in Town Square, my hometown, was infinitely special. And it's one of those things where like they asked us if we wanted to headline it back in March when the vaccine started rolling out. They're like, hey, we're gonna probably try to do it this time, and I was shocked. And like, especially, and then I later found out the Fable Cry, which is like our sibling band, like we've been playing shows with them for years. I didn't know it at the time, but they were like, they got on the bill. I found out like a couple months later. I literally wept because like after not playing for like a year and a half, because like, I mean, lockdown screwed over everybody, obviously, in some way or another, the entire world. But like from this band's angle, we were supposed to go out on tour like throughout most of the summer of last year. We had a lot of stuff, and like we had a record that came out last year that we were going to be promoting. And yeah, it all got kind of shut down, of course, but and not that it didn't need to, but it's just like, that's the reality. So our first show back being the headliners in my hometown in front of God knows how many people, it still hasn't hit me like completely, but it also very much has. It's definitely a lot different, considering this is like our first show back in a while, whereas last time like we had been playing shows around it, so we were still like we were still pretty sharp. But I'm like, okay, this is the first Flummox show, out of the gate in a year and a half, give or take. So it's crazy. Like we're doing the after show thing afterwards, because we were asked to be PG-13 for Pride, so but we're gonna do an after show. That's our normal uncensored craziness.
It's going to be at Reidenhauer Rehearsal Studios, is that correct?
That's right, at the alley.
I've been over there before. They have a very nice stage.
Hmm.
And I guess you're going to open it up to the first 50 people. Is that correct?
100 actually, but yeah, yep,
Yeah,
yep,
I knew that place is not that large. So it did
yeah.
say the alley over there. Does that mean it's going to be outside somewhere?
No, it's indoors. It's an indoor. They have like a whole um they have a whole space that's basically like set up like a venue, big old stage and all that other stuff. And like 100 isn't even the capacity in that room, like normally. But obviously, like with the Delta strain kind of coming back in, like we're like, let's cap it off like right there, and then like
Yeah.
also check people
Yeah, it's
for
definitely a good idea. You
vaccines.
got to be just so pumped to be opening that show in your hometown. That's got to be like, I'm sure that's something you've always thought of, right? I mean, I think every musician thinks that. It's like, oh, I would love to open and play my hometown. That's like, or my high school or something like that or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's funny too, because like, so like in this particular instance, when we opened it the first time, like, it was literally a year to the day that I had like started my transition, and it just lined up perfectly. Not to mention, like, I mean, I'm from the South, I'm from here, and I'd never thought we'd even have Pride, much less one that was in my hometown and all this other stuff. And in the middle of town square, no less. It wasn't like in some like rural part or whatever. It was like middle of town. And it was an insane experience altogether. And I can only imagine what this is going to be like. And like we're actually like we've been having some craziness going on. Our guitar player like fractured his wrist like 2 weeks ago. So a friend of mine from Ohio came down and learned all of his parts for this show in like a week. And it's been chaotic this time trying to get it all together, but we got it together. We rehearsed last night and I was like, okay, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I got a chance to catch some of your videos online, some of or I think your originals and stuff, and just so much passion and energy as you're just pouring into your original music. It's just the stuff I saw was kind of like a mixture, like kind of like a punk rock type style a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have like sort of this I mean we grew up listening to like a lot of thrash and stuff like that, and that kind of raw like punk related energy, like it's just kind of found its way. Like we get lumped into like a lot of progressive prog bands and stuff like that, which is cool. I wouldn't consider us a prog band. Maybe like we're progressive, but like I I feel like we like to make sure like we sound kind of trashy, have that kind of riff propelled sort of music that has the actual like power behind it and everything. Because I mean, yeah, we like grew up with like, I mean, we might be like a progressive band, but I mean, I grew up listening to Venom, and stuff like that, so I mean, and it's not like Venom was exactly progressive or like
Black metal.
Bathory.
I think I would describe them like black metal. I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like I mean, Venom like has that old school like, I mean, like they were the first black metal band, but a lot of that stuff that they did was definitely influenced by a lot of those early punk bands. Not that they're necessarily a punk band, but it's like, like Motorhead kind of influenced punks in a way, and Motorhead, like Motorhead's actually a good example of another huge influence for us as far as that sort of, very simplistic but nasty, heavy sound. And that's what we try to do, just like make music that sounds like the stuff that we always listen to, but make something new out of it at the same time.
Well, you certainly have a lot of synthesizer and horns in your music. And I'm wondering if you were going to bring both of those to the show on Saturday. Are you going to have a horn section?
Well, so sometimes we actually do have the horns live. It really just depends on who's available. We always have, or at least in the last 2 years, we have always had keys and synth. So that'll definitely be part of it. Like Jesse is a permanent. member of the band, so that's cool. But we've had a couple horn players in and out of like they're like, I guess you could call them like auxiliary players, you know, like they're sometimes in, sometimes out.
Right. Just
But
like the hired guns or something like that.
yeah, more or less. If they were hired.
Right.
But
At this point, they're hired, they're favors or
yeah,
their
they're
favor.
favors. Yeah, like for real though. Yeah, Keith McQuarrie played saxophone on one of our records, and then the last one we did was a guy named Braxton Nicholas, and it's all just saxophone, mainly. And you know, we've also had flute as well, and you know, we try to actually, like the last record we did, we try to get even all kinds of different other instruments. Like we had one of my partners playing marimba, and we had like, I mean, again, like there's saxophone all over it, even though like we actually haven't played it live like that particularly, but we want to. It's just Braxton, the guy who played saxophone on that record, is very busy musician, which is good. And we were really glad to have him play on our record. He used to, before our drummer Alan Pfeiffer was in our band, he used to be in this amazing, like, think like King Crimson, Mahavishnu Orchestra type band called the Montezuma Fire Machine. And it was him and Braxton and a bunch of other musicians. Braxton is the one who played saxophone for our latest one, and he's incredible. So we'll definitely have keys and synth and all of our weird theatrical bits, but no saxophone, sadly.
Well, I haven't actually seen a full Flummox show. I only got glimpses of it at the DL birthday celebration, so I'm certainly looking forward to seeing your full set out there. Can you tell the audience when and where that's going to be and what time it starts?
Oh yeah, yeah, Borough Pride in Cannonsburg Village in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The music starts at 5. We'll be probably going on around 7-ish. And then we will be doing our artificial after show at right now rehearsal studios at the Alley at 10 o'clock.
But the music goes all day out there, correct?
Yeah.
There's several bands before you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Lincoln Lane. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I think I might know their guitar player if it's the person I'm thinking of. And there's Mel Bryant and the Mercy Makers. They're really fun. And then Fable Cry, who I mentioned earlier, that's like, again, like our sibling band. We've been playing shows with them for almost a decade, almost as long as the band has existed. And like we're always trying to one up each other. Like we're we're like friendly rivals. Like, but I mean, I love those guys. They're all like wonderful human beings. And like I said, like playing on that bill with them just made an already amazing situation like a miraculous one. Definitely check them out. Definitely check them out.
I certainly will. I'll try to get there very early and take it all in all day on Saturday. You have songs called Good Witch and Bad Witch. Are these references to the movie The Wizard of Oz or something else? Is there some kind of concept album in the works here?
Well, it kind of happened by accident, but loosely, yeah. I mean, like, I actually, because of those songs, we open our set. There's a YouTube video of us doing a live set at this during the pandemic or whatever, and we opened the set with Over the Rainbow. Like we play Somewhere Over the Rainbow like straight, you know, and then it's not straight all of a sudden. But I'm not gonna give too much away. But that being said, like, it was kind of an accident actually. Like I happened to write one song that was called She's Lucky That I'm a Good Witch, and it was like this folk song that I had like 4 or 5 years ago, and I never did anything with it. Me and Drew just kind of abandoned it for a little bit, and then I ended up writing another song called Bad Witch that was completely unrelated, and that was just something I did on my acoustic, and I showed it to the guys, and they're like, okay, that's cool, we'll do that. And Good Witch came about because I was like, you know, we have a song called Bad Witch, and we had this Good Witch song a few years ago. Like, why don't we take at least like the lyrical concept of the original Good Witch song and make it into a rock song. And Drew had this riff. It was the opening riff of Good Witch. And we based the whole song just off that riff because we were like, damn, that's a riff. And that was the last track we wrote for In Hindsight. But yeah, like that's it. It wasn't intentionally made to be a Wizard of Oz thing. I'm more of an Alice in Wonderland kind of girl. But that being said, like it kind of formed into that, and we just like, you know what? Yeah, we'll just lean into that a little bit. You know, I mean, like I said, we start off the set now with Over the Rainbow, so it's definitely become that.
So you guys are definitely big fans of the movie then, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like it's a classic for sure, and you know, like that's it's a pretty good one for trips and whatnot.
So how does the songwriting process work for you guys? Is it just you and Drew primarily, or do you all bring something to the table? Do you actually get together at a certain day, certain time, and just hammer something out? Or how does the creative process work for y'all?
Pretty much all of those things, to some degree. So I mean, so when we first started the band, me and Drew, like we were right out of high school, and it was just us and a drummer sometimes. And like it primarily was me and Drew. And it's still more or less like that's kind of like the bedrock of everything. Like usually like me and Drew are usually the ones who are kind of steering it musically a certain way. But we certainly are we certainly are a very like democratic sort of band. Like any musician that comes into the band, like we make sure to like hear out their ideas and utilize whatever they have to bring to the table. And with the newest with the new record that we're kind of writing, we have a lot of input from Jesse, our keyboardist, a lot of input. Me and Jesse meeting up together separately from normal rehearsals and doing whatever. Our other guitar player Chase has been adding a lot. Jay, my partner who's also in the band now, is also like added a whole new kind of layer of things into the music. And yeah, like it really started off as me and Drew kind of primarily, but then like I said, like if somebody is good at what they do, I'm not gonna be like, okay, well you have to do it the way that I have in my head, or it's not gonna be right. Like sometimes what's in my head ends up not sounding as good as what initially gets conceived. So, you know, I like to utilize what talents my musicians in my band are capable of, and definitely not stifle any creativity just because maybe I might have some kind of initial idea. And usually, like, you know, the ideas kind of steer themselves a certain way, and it all works out in the end as far as like, you know, oh, not only was this accomplishing what I initially envisioned, but it excelled that, you know, at least with the newest stuff, because frankly, like our first two albums are terrible. but that wasn't really, we didn't have a whole lot of control there, but there it is.
Well, you're growing as a band, and you certainly provide a lot of melody and a lot of other elements that make the songs definitely palatable and very, very interesting and very worthwhile listening to. I have a question about the song called "Trans Girls Have Guns." You described your process here as a biohack. Is that correct? Your posts? And
Yeah,
I just had to ask you, what issues have you experienced being trans?
that's a loaded question. So okay, well, yeah, trans girls need guns. That's a polarizing title that makes people on either side kind of pissed off. So I mean, as a transgender musician, it's been kind of weird for like, because Flummox started well before I transitioned. So like I was already playing shows and actively doing stuff, like lesser than I am now, but still, like I was a public figure within my own little space. And it was really like difficult, but also not for like the reasons one may think, you know, having to come out like already like known like, you know, as this bearded dude with like this metal band or whatever. And oh, by the way, I'm transgender, you know, and transitioning very much in public. You know, like a lot of girls who have transitioned, I know, like kind of sometimes they'll just move, you know, or they're at the very least they'll like I know quite a few took hormones for like a year before even saying anything about it publicly. So like it's it sometimes puts you in this like, I mean, obviously there's some people who I mean, you'll lose fans just because they think like I literally had people tell me that it was like some sort of like public publicity stunt that I was transitioning. Like this wasn't like some like major lifestyle change and everything. You know, like this was, you know, this is something that I had to do for me. And it really had nothing to do with anything else. But that being said, yeah, like down here in the South, being trans can be very dangerous. Most people don't realize I'm transgender at this point. When they first met me, you know, like just some like I at my day job, like maybe half the people there know, and the other half have no idea. And unfortunately, a lot of trans women don't really have that like privilege. And you know, not that like passing or whatever is like the goal necessarily. It's just to be happy. But my point being is down here in the South, like being outed as transgender or a lot of people knowing, like, you know, that can definitely lead to some trouble. You know, one of my old jobs that I had that I had when I started transitioning, like I was sexually harassed constantly, had a lot of like scary moments with people that I didn't know, people I knew too, but mainly people I didn't know. And you know, like I had a dude stalk me, and this was all within the first year and a half. So like down here, like it's, you know, not just Tennessee, but you know, Texas, for instance, is really bad. Like, I mean, trans women get murdered just because, you know, a guy picks them up or thinks they're hot, doesn't realize they're trans, freaks out and shoots them, or worse. And that's kind of what my song's about, in the sense of like, you know, police aren't going to defend us, especially young. Absolutely not. I mean, like, I was even in an incident, or rather, not. I was involved in an incident. Like, I don't want it to sound like I was the victim of this particular thing, but basically, like, someone very close to me, another trans person, was assaulted within her house, and the cops showed up, and like the guy who did it was still there, but he locked himself in his room. The cops are like, we can't do anything about it, you know.
Yeah, I don't
And
think people really understand or realize any of these issues as of yet. I mean, in certain parts of the U.S., obviously it's coming out more, and I think people are starting to understand a little bit more, and starting to you know, give these folks, you know, some understanding and stuff. And
right,
Jared and I spoke about this a little bit. You know, we really wanted to have you on the show. We really appreciate your music and your energy, and you know, that's what it's about. You know, it shouldn't be about because in our mind, you know, music doesn't have a color, music doesn't have a gender, right? It's if you're playing music that energizes your emotions, if you know, brings out the, you know, that rock in you, or brings out the soul in you, that's what it should be all about. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have to categorize in that. And hopefully, you know, as we grow, you know, as our people start to understand and evolve, maybe hopefully in the future we will make steps to have more understanding. Hopefully, at least that's what I see. I know exactly what you're saying though. In some of the more southern states, it seems any type of understanding like that is very very far behind.
very. And like, I mean, you know, the thing is like, and it's, you know, on the musical side of things, you know, music is very colorful. It's across a very wide spectrum, you know, and like when one it's kind of a pro con sort of scenario, because when I did come out, we automatically Flummox was a trans band, and it's kind of the same thing you'd see with any other like, oh, it's a female fronted band, or oh, this band has black
Right.
people
All of a
in it,
sudden you
you know.
got labeled and as what you were, right?
Yeah. And like that's the thing, like on one hand, it did expose us to a lot of, you know, kids out there who would have never heard us in the first place and have gotten something out of our music. And I'm very grateful for that. You know, you know, it definitely, you know, does a lot more than warm my heart when some, you know, like especially like a transgender kid who might be at home and still living at home or whatever, and you know, parents aren't really cool with it, you know,
Yeah.
reaching out in some way to me to be like, your music is like helping, you know, like that's cool. But like, you know, obviously I find it funny when like we'll get lumped in like the same category as like Gloss and Laura Strain, or not Laura Strain, Laura Jane Grace rather, which great artists, but we don't sound anything alike. Like I love Gloss, but they're like a punk band that lasted for like 2 years, and as revolutionary as they are, and as much as I like kind of being at the same thing, I mean, it's kind of like putting Frank Zappa in the same category as the Misfits, or like putting Mr. Bungle in the same category as like the Ramones or
Right. I think for
whatever.
most people, just to understand whatever style you have in general, they try to put some type of label on stuff. I know a lot of other bands have said, you know, oh, you know, they call us a metal band, we're not a metal band, or they call us, you know, a punk band, we're really not that. You know, they like people like to put those type of labels on music so they can kind of put it in a box and sell it and let people understand it.
Mhm.
But tell us also a little bit about, I guess you're on a label called Needle Juice Records, right? Is that
That's
who's
right.
putting out your stuff?
Oh yeah, and they're very good to us, which is something a lot of record labels aren't. uh, yeah, we've been with them since early 2019. We had already put out this album called Intellectual Hooliganism through this really small local label. And Needle Juice is actually like, they were a small local label, like most of them start out, but like they've definitely grown a lot in the last few years. You know, they've released King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard stuff. They've released Lemon Demon. You know, a lot of bands that we admire. And you know, Plasma Canvas is another one. And actually, they have some very like, they're almost like I don't want to say like an outsider music label, because like a lot of their stuff is accessible, but it's definitely like weirder music, like all around. Like they are the record label that are y'all familiar with the Most Unwanted Song? Have you ever heard of that?
I am not. No, I haven't heard that.
So back in the 90s, these scientists, I believe, basically they ran this poll, this like people, it's like the people's choice. And it was, the poll was like, you know, from so many people, like what is your favorite sounds in music, like what you like in certain pieces of music, and what is like the stuff you despise hearing in music. And they made two songs, the Most Wanted Song and the Most Unwanted Song. And the Most Unwanted Song, I mean, it's like 20 minutes of an opera singer singing about rapping about being a cowboy over like it's wild. I mean, it's like this whole,
Huh?
yeah. It's like, so like our record label released that on like for the first time on vinyl, you know, and like I'm like, that's perfect. Like I'm glad we're on this label just because of that. But they've been like really good with us. Our guitar player Chase has become more or less like their main mixing, mastering person. But like they're like, yeah, like I love a lot of the stuff that they put out. And they hit us up in 2019 about doing a vinyl deal, like re-releasing Intellectual Hooliganism as a record with a little bit better master. And they've been putting out our stuff ever since. And we'll be putting out our thing later this year.
Oh, cool.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to it.
Mhm.
I've enjoyed what I've heard thus far, and I think the sky's the limit for you and Flummox. I think you guys definitely have the creative process down, and I think it's only going to get better from here.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. Like this is definitely like the best band I've ever been a part of. I like trust all of these people that I'm in a band with. Like they're all family, you know, at this point. And like the music that we're making is unlike anything uh I've ever done before. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like me and Drew were definitely like the primary songwriters and still kind of are, but it's really good to like have other people's input and like push our own envelope a little bit, you know. And yeah, like I said, this is the best band I've ever been in for sure.
So the lineup's changed several times over the years. Is this going to be a consistent lineup here? Is this going to remain stable?
I hope so. um I mean, like we've had several lineup changes, but mainly it was circumstantial or personal issues with whatever member ended up getting ousted, but we're actually still pals with a lot of the people who used to be in a band in the band. Or one of our longtime drummers before Alan is Jody Lester. He played on one of our albums. He does guest vocals on like every single one of our albums since. And yeah, like we still keep in contact with a lot of these folks, but yeah, like hopefully this is the band that sticks. Yeah, for sure. So we like honestly like the way like it's one of those things where we brought everything, everybody bringing everything to the table creates a very interesting image, so I really hope that this is the lineup that sticks for sure. I think we're going to be a thing for a minute with this particular lineup, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Are they talking about any tour dates, out of your current area or in other parts of the US or anywhere?
So we definitely want to tour some more. We every single time we've booked tours and stuff like that, something happens. Like last time it was a lockdown. Before that, we had a hurricane mess up some stuff. Before that, we had a member have a drug thing that happened, and we had to cancel the whole thing. So like we want to. We actually just bought a tour van, but we're also not going to book anything like major tour or even really like outside of just like regional things. Like we got some dates coming up in Kentucky, probably some in like Georgia and Alabama, and just like some of the bordering states like for the rest of the year. But we're just kind of getting our feet wet again. We're trying to remember how to play shows. We definitely want to tour next year. We'll have a record to support, and we'll definitely like New York has definitely been talked about. We have some connections up that way, and we wouldn't want to get up there. We are booked for a festival in Maryland next summer, but all of this depends on the state of affairs,
Yeah, let's hope we don't backtrack. They do have a festival up here in Buffalo called Music is Art that Robbie Takak does from the Goo Goo Dolls. That may be something you may be looking at to get into. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that would be a pretty cool thing. I'm from Buffalo, New York as well. That's where Robert and I met each other in grade school, right? Gosh, we go back. So
yeah, don't say how long ago.
Yeah, we've certainly loved rock and roll music for a very long time. So we're certainly happy to have you on. And I guess everybody can see you at the Pride Fest in Murfreesboro on Saturday.
That's right. Yeah, and hopefully we'll have some more decent show dates coming up that don't get canceled or anything, and hopefully people just keep getting vaccinated and keep this away, so we can actually do stuff again. God, it's been draining. This is the longest I've gone without playing shows since I started when I was like 15. So
yeah, if people want more information about you, or if they want to check out your music, where should they go?
We're actually a pretty Googleable band. So if you Google Flummox Band, we'll definitely come up. But we're on Bandcamp, flummox.bandcamp.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Somebody runs a Twitter for us. because I'm not, but it exists. And yeah, you can find us anywhere. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music and YouTube and et cetera, like pretty much Flummox Band, and we're easy to find.
Well, I think you're only going to gain new fans from here. So I'm certainly going to tell everybody about the performance going down on Saturday. And my friend Kim and I plan on coming out and checking you out. We got a taste of it, a glimpse at the Dio birthday celebration, and we certainly loved what we saw. So we're looking forward to the full performance on Saturday.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're looking forward to it too. A little nervous, but definitely looking forward to just getting back into it and hopefully killing it. Not ourselves.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be an awesome show. We so appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today and be on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we definitely wish you, continued success as you're rolling along here. And hopefully, like you said, if things work out and you guys be able to get some more tour dates, that'd be great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll make it out your way for sure. Might take a few more months, but like I said, we got a van. We've got some plans, so we'll definitely be out once things have semi-stabilized a little bit more.
Excellent. Well, folks, so if you want to check them out, go ahead and you can check them out on Spotify or all the other places that Alyson mentioned. Also, if you want to hear more from us, please email us at talkingaboutrock@gmail.com. Please like us on Facebook, check us out on Instagram, and as always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alyson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you,
so
Alyson.
much.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
You
Right.
too. See you Saturday.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.